Welcome to Let's Talk Spokane, where host Ryan McNeice seeks out and discusses the latest on a variety of hot local topics. Now, here's your host, Ryan McNeice.
Welcome to Let's Talk Spokane. I'm Ryan McNeice, and we're here in the studio with Mateusz Wolski.
Well done.
I got it.
Yeah, you got it.
I've been practicing that.
Yeah, good job.
Mateusz from the Spokane Symphony, and this is an exciting show because what folks usually probably think, and I'm just going to put that out there, when they think Spokane Symphony or orchestra or symphony, they might think fairly robotic and classical music. Partly that may be true because you have all the talent in the world to do that.
Right.
But what we're talking about today is a new show.
Something very different.
Something very different, and it's called the M Show.
Correct.
Music, Mayhem, and Mystery.
There might be a little bit of a Mateusz in there, but
okay.
but that generally, yes, we thought that actually at some point we might make a competition to ask people, what do you think the M stands for?
Yep.
And the sky is the limit.
I mean, Mateusz.
There you go.
That's
there
what
you go.
I thought.
There's a lot. I mean, it's really funny because part of the idea is to engage with people who are not particularly either familiar or keen on classical music, or they just think that you have 60 penguins sitting on the stage, kind of suited up, and just what you just said, the perception could be that there's a bunch of robots playing. It comes from the reality is that we are trying to synchronize 60, 70 people to play something together, and that takes tremendous amount of concentration and discipline, and kind of the part of the experience is therefore that it kind of doesn't look extremely individual.
Well, I'm fascinated with this concept because I think, as we talked about before the show, across many genres of different professions, et cetera, people have an idea of what an accountant might be or a plumber might be. But what folks probably don't know about you as a concertmaster, Spokane Symphony Concertmaster, a resume a mile long that's incredibly impressive, but you race cars.
Oh, well, yes, I absolutely
race cars.
I absolutely do.
But that says something about you. It says something about you that's different. It differentiates yourself, that not only do you have an extremely amazing background in classical music, you race a Lotus sports car.
Yes, I do. I mean, actually, it's really funny because, first of all, let's face it, I mean, it sounds very exotic, but I got a great...
It looks exotic.
I know, I got a great deal on the car. That's the only reason why I'm able to drive a Lotus. And it was, let's put it this way, I paid this much for the car at the time because I got lucky as a Honda Civic.
Really?
Brand new. Yeah. So the thing is this was, you don't pass on something like that.
I'm impressed. I saw a bunch of Lotus down at the Barrett Jackson car show in Scottsdale this last weekend. It's an impressive car.
Yeah, no, it's very, but the whole concept of a Lotus is, the founder of the idea of Lotus, Colin Chapman, he had this phrase that he used to say that, if you want to get a better performance out of a car, you add lightness. And the Lotus essentially kind of embodies that, particularly my car, because they have a super light chassis and they use Toyota Celica motor in the thing.
Which was always a fast car.
Yeah, but it was, 170 horsepower motor,
but super light.
But a super light car all of a sudden could match a Corvette's performance.
Yeah, it's now, proportionality.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's power to weight ratio.
Yeah.
So part of my MO in life is that I'm very much of a DIY guy, which means that mastering something like playing an instrument requires a lot of you trying to understand things and then try to wrap your brain around and beat it to submission through practicing to teach those fingers move now.
Right, the 10,000 hour concept.
Yeah,
do it over and over and over.
Absolutely, you're right, spot on. So with the car is because kind of what happened. I got into competitive autocross racing, which is kind of grassroots motorsports, very affordable. You're not going to die if you mess up because typically there's an autocross club that operates in Spokane. We meet at the Deer Park Airport. And, if you do something really bad, you hit a bunch of cones or you spin your car out, you learn what your machine can do. But there's tremendous amount of smack talk in between the races.
That's the fun part.
Oh yeah, that's the fun part. You're trying to psych the other guy. When you're 200ths of a second faster than the next guy, and he's on on his next run. I mean, you don't want him to beat you. So like, so how do you think you're going to do it? Or I'm 200 of a second faster.
That's the psychology.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But
we do it to each other all the time.
But that psychology and that preciseness, that specificity, though, as to what you're doing in a microsecond on the racetrack, is the same you're doing as a concertmaster. So the parallels.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like my students, I have a teaching studio. I mean, some of them are just laughing because whenever I'm going to try to give them an example of something that relates to technical violin playing, it's like, you see, if you were a race car, this and that would correspond to the suspension arm or a contact patch of your tire or engine output. Yeah, this is the analogy. So, they're always laughing, but I think even some students that are never going to play violin, they're going to know so much about cars and car racing that, they're set for life. So I feel like I fulfilled my mission.
You've accomplished
I've accomplished a great deal of something.
And I know we're jumping around a little bit, but
Sure.
all of these pieces make up a fascinating story in which you have born in Warsaw, Poland.
Yeah.
Started playing the violin at 7,
Yes.
I believe.
Yeah.
Give us a little background of how you ended up in New York City and just the phenomenal story of the different organizations you've been a part of, whether it be playing for Hollywood films, whether it be playing in orchestras. Give us a little bit of background.
So in a nutshell, this is kind of how, in a couple minutes, my life story went. I started at 7 years old in Poland back at that time. We're talking about 81, 82.
Right.
When I went to the music school, this was kind of normal that school in your district would send letters to parents and say, hey, if your kid is interested in playing music, bring him over to the school. We'll run some tests, and if he is a viable candidate for this or that, we'll give it a go.
Yeah.
So I went to the school. I was hoping to play on the piano because we had a piano at home, and they told me you're going to play violin.
That was your general interest.
Yeah. So I was like, oh no, violin. Right? So, but then I fell in love with this. Then I kind of was doing pretty good and went through kind of a very good training and some competitions. And then completely out of the blue, I got invited to play with the string quartet, which was a group that was very successful. There was a bunch of friends that were good friends of mine in elementary music school. We kind of like went into different high schools and stuff. They started a very successful ensemble. When I won competition, another one brought them to New York. Didn't win the competition, but people in New York said, hey, you're talented, you just need a little bit more training, a little better instruments.
But it led you to your next opportunity.
Well, the fact is, it's absolutely crazy. You won't believe that. I was not part of the group when that happened. They come back and one of the guys says, I'm engaged. There had some inside tension. I cannot imagine myself going to New York City with you guys. And all of a sudden they have like this amazing opportunity in front of them, and they are down one player. Well, I was in the different group. I had a scale set, or so I thought. So they invited me to join them, and all of a sudden, 2 months later, I'm in New York City.
In the middle of Manhattan.
Based on the word of my friends that they said, oh, yeah, he's good for it.
Yeah, he's good.
Oh, my God. I mean, so you can imagine the chip on my shoulder at this point because I'm like, I don't know how this has happened. They believe like a bunch of, teenage boys.
Mateusz, he's got this.
So it's absolutely mind-boggling that this actually happened. I mean, it's just winning a lottery. Nevertheless.
But you took the opportunity.
I did take the opportunity. Don't. The funny thing happened that the quartet didn't last much longer. I mean, we were for about 4 years there. But once the quartet disbanded, I had like 2 weeks to make a decision: am I going back home or am I auditioning for a master's program at Manhattan School of Music? So I auditioned for that, got in, still got a scholarship, and so that was good because unaffordable for kids from Poland, to study in one of the best schools in the country. But the fear of God you have, it's like, what am I going to do? Let me to just practicing, as many hours as my arms would take. One concerto competition is like internal school competition where you get to, if you win, you get to play with the orchestra. Won another one, that kind of got things going. Started actually subbing or substituting with the New York Philharmonic. I took some auditions there, didn't get the job, but made it to the substitute list. Traveled the world with them. Wonderful experience. That's kind of where through the people that were playing there, I got on a bunch of sessions on the Hollywood movies. I recorded soundtracks for Hitch, or Intolerable Cruelty, or actually, I actually ended up being on this set.
The Departed, I think.
I did Departed.
Yeah, I saw that.
But you know what? The funny thing is, as my wife likes to joke, I got the opportunity to work in Hollywood and do a hand job. What it means is that
please explain.
Yes, I will explain it. There's nothing nefarious about it. It's essentially there was a character in Robert De Niro's movie, The Good Shepherd, that plays violin, and the gentleman that plays the Russian spy. He's about 50, 60. And they realized that his hand shape was exactly like mine.
You're a hand model.
Yeah, I'm a hand model. So therefore that's what happened. So essentially, they had to age my hand to make it look like it's a 60-year-old guy's hand. And the day when they were doing it, actually, Alec Baldwin was sitting like right next to me in a chair. It was Friday. I still remember, and he's just telling joke after joke to his stylist. When I'm sitting there, it's like completely starstruck, sitting there and. And just, eventually you just start cracking because he's just really funny guy. Yeah. So then we're starting to chat, and he's just like, what about this? And he runs a joke by me and another joke. So then I'm called to the set, to do the hand double essentially.
Yeah.
And he just leans to me and is like, oh, by the way, my name is Alec Baldwin. I was like, I know.
I got that. I got that.
So it was like, it was why my kind of brush with the actual real Hollywood and working with De Niro for a day. And so that was really absolutely wonderful. But it kind of also that gave me a glimpse and being around kind of the really, really big things.
Well, and you had traveled the world in terms of your resume after Manhattan and where that took you to several countries, several different orchestras. It's really... amazing.
No, it was a lot of fun, and then the thing happened that when Spokane Symphony was looking for a concertmaster, the orchestra like ours does a national-wide search or international search actually for the job, and Spokane is very peculiar. Nobody knows where it is. It's a small place. Spokane. That's the typical
Spokane,
reaction.
Washington.
Yeah, and so it quite often doesn't make radar on. It doesn't make it on your radar when you're in New York City or Chicago or Boston. So our music director, Eckhart, actually started calling people at some point because he somehow just pure advertisement didn't work. And he knew me, he knew about me, he heard me play. And he says like, hey, would you like to fly in, play with our orchestra for a week, play an audition, see what you think, and see if, we have a bunch of other candidates that are going to come. But I think you might actually enjoy that. So I came in and I played my audition. I played my week.
What time of year was that?
Oh, that was. I think I came in for my first audition was actually nice. So must have been like April, May.
Yeah, I wondered what that first impression
there was also like maybe the second time I came in was October or something. There was a little bit of snow, maybe November. But I got a unanimous vote actually from the committee, and I got a job offer. So then there was the time to convince my wife.
Yeah. Hey, we're going out to Spokane, Washington. How about that?
Who is a fabulous opera singer. Now actually she is a general director of the opera Coeur d'Alene.
Coeur d'Alene, that's right.
So I took pictures of waterfalls, kind of nature,
Instagram
beautiful,
shots.
Everything. However, I had a hunch, and I took a picture of a mall directory. So my wife, we're in New York City, right?
Right.
She likes to dress nice. She's a beautiful woman, that kind of. So she scrolls like nice. Oh, they have a Nordstrom. I guess they're not that backwards. Fine, we can move.
Okay, so Nordstrom's sealed the deal.
Nordstrom really sealed the deal for us. So we came in, and we've been here for about 11 years now. So that's kind of.
You give Spokane a thumbs up?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think this is as far as now we have a 2-year-old, and I think this is a fantastic place to live.
It is a very livable
I
town.
think it's the fact that we have so much amazing nature around us. There's also very, very different vibe from town. I've part of the playing with in Spokane Symphony. Part of my duties is that I do attend fundraisers and the donor functions.
Sure.
And there are some folks here that you would meet them on the street. You would just think they're just completely average person.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens that, kind of you get actually invited to their home and you realize it's a multi-million-dollar mansion.
Mm-hmm.
But there is something about Spokane where people are not like, look at me, which happens a lot in the bigger cities.
I'd use the word real. Spokane's real.
Yeah, I would say so. And it's more about human connection.
Mm-hmm.
And do we have a common interest? People who support something like Spokane Symphony are just genuinely
Mm-hmm.
interested in what we do. They love us for who we are
and want to see the organization succeed.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what makes Spokane special is the fact that it's not that big of a city, and it still can have a symphony orchestra, which is maybe not everybody's cup of tea.
Right.
But that's where this new whole idea comes into play.
And let's actually, if we can, let's play a quick little video that is kind of a bit of an intro into the M show, or give us an idea. So let's go ahead and roll tape on that real quick. And Mateusz, seeing that clip by the Spokane Symphony, which is a bit of an intro for the M show, I think they're going to get an idea that this is something different.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, what you see here is a teaser of a skit. The whole concept of the show came about, partially, you're going to love it, inspiration was a Top Gear. The British automotive, car automotive show right now continuing on Netflix as a grand tour, and there's this whole idea of challenges that the hosts on that show do to each other, or quite often they have their producer that says, we would like you to race XYZ. And I just love this idea. And I said, what if we do our management?
See?
Because we have a management. Yes, no, absolutely. So I thought, how fun it would be. I mean, we're a very competitive bunch. How fun would be if we came up with a bunch of challenges for each other and actually see who can do better. That's the stuff that in a typical musical performance, it's not there. I mean, it's actually there, but you don't know it.
Right.
It is.
It's subtext.
Well, no, it's actually, if you go through like music history, if you happen to be a music history buff, the whole concept of a concerto is essentially a competition between a large ensemble and a poor little solo instrument. And the composer write it as a kind of David versus Goliath battle. And today, to us, it just sounds like a nice exchange of pleasantries. But back in the day, especially when the guys were pushing the envelope in terms of, what we try those funky harmonies or that, it was a competition, and everybody got it. Today we don't see it that way, but that's what it was. So I kind of wanted to take a step back, and it's like, what if we incorporate that? So what you see here on the video, it was a teaser where management sends us to the shopping mall, and the question is, okay, boys,
let's see who can.
Who can bring more money? If we give you an hour, and in order to have a fair play, we established certain rules at the beginning of that contest, and let's put it this way: some rules didn't quite stand because we started to get competitive. Now, the way I wanted to, I'm trying to incorporate this video into the show, is that this is not something we could do live on the stage in the Cracker Building where the show is going to be performed live.
Actually, let's throw that in there because it's coming up. So
it's coming up this Friday and Saturday at 8 p.m. at the Cracker Building, Washington Cracker Building. If some people know where the Hogwash Whiskey Den is, that's the building.
Which is an excellent establishment.
Exactly.
But if you get a chance, tickets, what's the best way for folks to get tickets?
You just go to SpokaneSymphony.org. I think Tickets West also has it. There is some individual tickets. There is some subscription because there will be 2 shows this year. We have another one in May.
Okay.
I know that there are some college card discounts and student ticket discounts. So as far as that, and also there's there was an info at the end of the clip.
Okay.
But you just put put an M show, Spokane Symphony.
Let's take a chance to do one more clip.
Oh, sure.
That I think that has been prepared and again, it just, I think, exemplifies with this show, the psychology that Spokane Symphony can have some fun. Let's take a look at that piece.
What is that supposed to be?
It's supposed to be an F. What was it? What was it?
It wasn't even close.
Okay, we need to see how warm your hands are. Let's see. Your hands are like high 60s, low 70s.
70?
That's too warm for this temperature out here.
Let's get him in the snow. Oh, Jesus, it's cold.
It's frozen.
Here comes a knee.
And we're back. Let's talk Spokane, and another clip that you guys put together. But
Right.
you know, I think we keep hitting on that concept that if somebody thinks the Spokane Symphony is just robotic and classical music, yes, you got the classical music at very, very high levels, but you're real people that are engaging with Spokane and beyond. And I think that's what fascinates me about not only those clips, but the idea of the M show is taking something that somebody potentially misperceives in terms of how they might engage with Spokane Symphony. This is a whole new way for individuals to get excited about the symphony.
Yeah, absolutely. You see, what I'm trying to show people here is that what happens when musicians are done with the show. You know, we take our suits off, we go party, or we decide to have a discussion. It's like, hey, I wonder who is playing the manliest instrument in this orchestra. Well, sure enough, you're like, oh, let's take it outside. Fine, let's take it outside, this last clip gives you an idea. We thought we were going to just shoot something funny in the snow. Ended up, we pretty much created a video like Mythbusters would do, because we got all sciencey about what is happening when the temperature drops to our pitch, to our ability to play, and you know, it creates a really real and hilarious situation. You know, one of the things that I'm trying to show people, look, we are highly skilled professionals in playing instruments. We are not actors.
Yeah.
But if you put us into a highly competitive situation where we forget that the camera is rolling, where, you know, we kind of really get into it,
like we can do this.
I really honestly, I think it works because we are genuinely get wrapped into it, and then
sincerity.
And the same thing you're going to experience if you come to our show, because the videos are just kind of like the beginning of a conversation, and then we take the skits, you know, we kind of continue them on, because this allows us to get this big wide lens of feeling. And I really wanted to feature some landmark locations of Spokane, like the mall, like the Manitou Park. You know, we're going to also have celebrity guests on our show, which is going to be somebody that is very well known in Spokane, and and we might settle them with the set of challenges live in front of the audience. So the whole idea is to incorporate things that seemingly don't go together.
That juxtaposition of
absolutely, and you know, and it's not in a way that I'm trying to create a shock value, but I'm trying to show you who are we, you know, when we're off the stage, when we are just ourselves. And you know, and musicians are very creative, usually quite undisciplined bunch in terms of their life situation.
Undisciplined?
Well, you know,
I was going to say very disciplined.
Yeah, when it comes to your craft. When it comes, you know, it's like, I mean, how
hyper-focused on the craft.
Yeah, I mean, you know, playing an instrument requires, you know, surgical precision in terms of your whole process of learning and then performing under pressure.
Right.
Of course, I mean, if you play a wrong note, nobody's going to die, but to you, it feels like you just killed somebody. I just killed a note. Yeah. You know, but you know, I mean, you take that instrument away from me. I'm a car racer. Somebody else is, you know, dog lover or cat lover, and
other aspects of your life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I want to show this to people. And the idea is, look, classical music is not everybody's cup of tea. In my mind, there's probably about 10% of people that, when they're exposed to it, they can find something really, truly meaningful to them.
Well,
but
you indicated this spring there's a Star Wars.
Yeah, like for example, we're going to have a Star Wars special.
Yeah.
The truth is that actually a lot of people don't realize that they love classical music because it's part of all the iconic movies. You strip the music away from the movies, it just somehow, like, something is really missing. But again, a lot of people don't know it.
Right.
Don't know that.
Well,
they know it's there.
Star Wars is some of the most impressive.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we love it. I mean, we played with as much joy as a Beethoven symphony. It's actually well written, fun music for us. But yeah, I mean, it's like, when you have a salt in your dishes, you cannot imagine what it was like to live without salt.
Right.
And back in the old days, unless you had an access to a sea or a salt mine, you're out of luck.
Yeah. And you mentioned Beethoven and the history of classical music. You play a very classical violin, though. Tell us a little bit about that background. That I believe the Spokane Symphony owns this particular violin.
So I'm really lucky to be able to play on a very old Italian piece of wood.
Right.
It is 1779.
1779.
So you can do the math quickly, how old it is.
It's amazing, though.
Yeah, it was crafted in Italy. Then somehow it made its way across the ocean and ended up being essentially purchased by, I don't remember exactly, but there was money donated particularly to buy an instrument, and somebody purchased this instrument for the Spokane Symphony, because in my position you quite often get to play big concertmaster solos. Also, I play solo concertos. I'll be playing a solo concerto this April. I will be playing actually big Brahms violin concerto on the April 14th, 15th with the Spokane Symphony. So that's kind of the stuff that I normally would do and be very excited about, which I am. But then, how about we do something slightly unorthodox, like the M show?
Let's shake it up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love playing all sorts of music. We have our pops, we have our Baroque series, we have our, and I think it's just like with cuisines.
You wouldn't want to eat the same thing every day.
Exactly. And I find that music quite often, as a comparison, is very much like going to a different restaurants once in a while. So if you're at all adventurous, if you hear that there's a new restaurant opening in town, why don't we check it out?
Yeah,
that's what the M show is. If you've been to a rock concert, there might be a little bit of that in there. If you've been to a classical music concert, there might be a little bit of that. And if you love stand up, we'll do a lot of kind of stand up, as I say, a little classier, because you have classical musicians doing this stand up. So
we've already even seen a little clip.
Absolutely.
These folks can act.
Well, we're not. No, but the funny thing is we're not acting. You see, that's the whole thing. I mean, because
you're just being real.
Listen, if you give me lines to read, I'll be like, no, it's just not going to happen.
Got a little free form.
Yeah. Absolutely. We're a little bit more like jazz players in this particular situation. We just ad-lib stuff, and again, I think if it's framed right, it really works.
But it's why I was interested in doing this show. When we had an opportunity to talk about Spokane Symphony and the fact that you were doing something different, that really got me thinking about the creative idea that you guys are working outside the box and really trying to say, hey, Spokane Symphony, we can work at the highest levels of classical music, but at the same time, we can run in this lane as well. And I think that really says something not only about Spokane, but about your organization and your willingness to be creative. The
other thing, we're talking about it, why is this, to be quite honest, without bragging, but this is the first time that a symphony orchestra, I think, in this country takes on a comedy with classical music in a kind of organized way. And part of it is it because it's a horrible idea? Maybe. We'll see.
You got to take that risk occasionally, though.
Or because actually, like some of the shoots that we do and locations that we have, they're available, they're accessible. We're working with Jim Svoboda from ILF Media, who happens to be a member of a Spokane Symphony chorale. He's a singer, he's a musician. So he's essentially pretty much donating all his time and energy to help us out with this, which means we can actually afford it. But yeah, if we tried to do any of the spots that you've seen, it would cost probably about $5,000 a spot. And if we actually wanted to do everything that he's doing for us, I mean, if you went to New York City, that would be a $80,000 production.
Yeah, a large production.
You know, really a large production with a million people involved. We're doing this definitely not for that.
Well, and on that same point, the venue, Washington Cracker Barrel building, it's just a really, really neat historic building.
Yeah, I mean, it has a cool vibe.
It's got a cool vibe. I think it'll be a great setting and backdrop for the uniqueness of what you're trying to do. And we're running out of time, but one more time, just give us an overview of how you can get tickets, how people can find you and or sign up for Spokane Symphony in general, but how can they participate this weekend? One more time for our listeners.
Okay, so this weekend, the show is at Cracker Building, Washington Cracker Building. It's on Pacific, the downtown. The shows are at 8 p.m., both on Friday and Saturday night. Right after the shows, there will be a party. So, you know, the bar will stay open. There's a wine, beer bar. There's also whiskey then right across the corridor. So if you want something stiffer, you can get it there. In order to get tickets, very simple. You just go to SpokaneSymphony.org, and there is a link. It says M Show, and you just can go. There's an option for a subscription or a single tickets. You can go to ticketswest.com. You can get your tickets there. You can also get the tickets at the door. So we'll have that option. Yeah, and it's essentially like, what can I say? We're going to go and have as much good time as you can see that we're having on those videos. If you want to come and join the party and see what musicians can do and how unorthodox classical musicians can be and how, you know, I think it's a really fresh and new thing. And then if you want to party with us after, ask us questions, kind of figure stuff out, you are able to get very, very closer than you would ever do if you came to a classical music venue.
Mateusz, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And if someone isn't able to make it this weekend, they might check you out on the racetrack because you're racing cars as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for bringing something new and original Spokane. Appreciate
it.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
Let's Talk Spokane is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask us a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Thanks for listening.